to Cultivating Harmony. If you're new here, go ahead and like this video if you're ready to make some applesauce today. So I'm going to make a quick note that I hadn't planned on adding, but I wanted to post this video just to, kind of the impending food shortages and just the world economy kind of being very unstable right now. It's really a good idea to, while we still have things available in stores, to go ahead and get them. They may not always be the cheapest. I was fortunate and able to get apples on sale. But if the prices of apples go up, maybe paying a regular price today is going to be in 2 weeks or a month or whatever, be paying a fraction of that in the future. So, we just want to think forward a little bit and prepare ourselves the best we can. And applesauce is a great way to do that. It's really great for digestion, and we'll go ahead and get started.
Now, I have to say that I've been canning applesauce for probably about 6 years now, and I have finally gotten it down to the quickest, simplest, the most efficient way to make applesauce. This way also has given me the least amount of waste, right? Which is really great because whatever is left, I am actually able to either feed the chickens, or I can just go ahead and throw in the compost or in the garden, and it's already super dry and, there's not a ton left anyways. So it just goes back to the earth. In the case of apples, and I find with other like pears or roots like potatoes and things in spring and summer, they're trying to get rid of last year's crops because they know that this new year's crop is going to go ahead and come in. So a lot of times you'll see sales also when, they're not necessarily in their peak season of harvesting. I am going to show you the quickest way to can applesauce. So I have my apples here and they have already been rinsed. I have a stock pot in which I'm going to use, and I also need a knife and a cutting board. Now that I have these, I'm going to give these apples a quick chop. Now, this isn't something that is meant to take a long time, right? Or that you need to be very particular about. I'm probably maybe going to cut the small apples into halves and the larger apples into quarters. It doesn't have to be beautiful. Leave the cores and stems, seeds, everything on, and just go ahead and throw it into your stock pot. Now, I typically like to use more than one type of apple. When I have the option, I tend to get the Snow Sweet and Liberty and do a 50-50 mix with that. Now, I personally don't like to add really too much to my applesauce. I know sometimes people will add sugar, but I find, especially when I use the Snow Sweet apples, that, you don't need it. Apples are naturally sweet. So once you have about half of your stock pot filled, I like to go ahead and add 1 cup of water. That just keeps it from burning once you get this on the stove, especially with the stock pots that are so deep like this. You really just have to be careful that while they're on their stove, you're putting them on really low heat, and after about 30 minutes or so that you're checking on it often and really getting a spoon down there to make sure that you're scraping off anything that could potentially get stuck to the bottom. So I'll go ahead and pour the water over all the apples that I can, and this is also the time, since we have it about halfway, when I'm going to go ahead and add some of my cinnamon. Now, I will show you guys what I have. I have 2 different types of cinnamon. One is the cassia cinnamon. We have the cassia cinnamon on the right-hand side here, and we have the Ceylon cinnamon on this other side here. So you can see here that we have the cassia cinnamon, which is a little bit spicier, I would say, on the right, and that's typically, what the cinnamon that we use here in America. And then here on the left, we have the Ceylon cinnamon, which I really feel is more, it's more aromatic. It's a little more floral in taste. It's not quite as spicy or strong as the cassia. I like both of them. I use them usually for different meals, depending on the kind of flavor profile I want to go to. But when I make my applesauce, I will add both of them. I think that a little bit of both is kind of like a great addition, and do it according to taste. So if you're just starting off, it's really going to depend on how many apples you have. So I would say start off with less, and then you can always add it in after you have the applesauce basically completed before canning. But for me, I like to add it during the cooking process just because I think that, you know, it kind of helps the flavors meld together, if you will. Like I said, we'll go ahead and throw in both of the cinnamons. And I will put that off to the side and continue cutting up the rest. Okay, so that's about half the apples that I have, and I have the stock pot completely filled here. Now, don't worry about it overflowing, because as it heats up on the stove, it's going to go down, right? It's going to start, you know, turning mushy. So you don't have to worry about leaving too much space. Just go ahead, you know, fill it up. Maybe just make it so that you can still lid it, because I like to keep the moisture in just while it's heating up so you don't burn it. I'm going to go ahead and add 1 more cup of water, just because this is such a large stock pot. But if you were using a pot that wasn't so deep, you probably wouldn't need it. But all right. So we have that water added in. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab the lid. All right. Now, the lid doesn't have to sit perfectly, because, like I said, it's going to go down, and so it'll go ahead and close. I'm going to put this on a medium-low temperature and put it on for about half an hour, and then I'm going to go ahead and check on it and see how it's doing. Okay, I just wanted to give you a quick shot of what that looks like so far. You can really start smelling the cinnamon now, and making sure that, like I said, you're lifting the apples that are all across the bottom up onto the top and getting everything cooked well and mixed. So we'll go ahead back to lidding that probably for another hour or 2. All right, so now that it's been on the stove for about an hour and a half, we can see that there's been about a 50% reduction. Okay, so we have all the apples that are now cooled sitting over here, and I have my jars already sanitized. You can do this just by boiling them in water on the stove and, you know, letting them cool. Or what I do is I throw them in the dishwasher on the sanitized cycle. So I think that is the easiest way. You can get them all done at once, you know, you don't have to worry about it. So once you have your jars, and you need to do this with your lids as well, sanitize your lids, and then go ahead and put these off to the side. And we're gonna work with the apples. I'm gonna show you my secret weapon. And it is, dun-dun-dun, my Victorio. Now, this is everything. A few things about it, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and load your mushed apples, you know, up into here, and you're actually going to move this. Now, don't be afraid. When I first got this, you know, I got hooked up and everything, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't even move this handle. Like, the thing is broken. It's not broken. Once you have the apples in here, this mechanism here is going to be moistened, and you're going to be moving. So it's just while it's dry, it can't really move, and so it seems very difficult to turn. So the apples will go in here, you're going to turn, and the applesauce will come out here. So you're going to need a bowl or something, or a pan to catch the applesauce. And then what comes out here is actually the waste. And so I always try to just put a pan like this here to catch all the waste. So now that we have this loaded up, we're going to go ahead and start twisting and, you know, pushing down and slowly. You'll see all the liquid come out first, but then, sure enough, there we go, our beautiful applesauce. Now, this does get a little bit, you know, a little bit messy in terms of some splattering, so you might want to put something up if you're really close to a wall. Just tape some paper towel up, or, you know, be prepared to wipe it down after. Now, the great thing is, like I said, you can just throw in the entire apple, so there's no waste. And all that comes out is the seeds and the stems and, you know, the really tough stuff that, you know, you weren't able to eat. But it's able to extract all of the apple, the entire apple, really, and all the juice and everything. They actually have a motor that you can go ahead and
hook up to this instead of turning. Now, I personally, I try to do things the old-fashioned way, and I don't mind a little workout. Just do all the apples, all the juice. If there's like a liquid water, go ahead, throw that into. We will put it into jars, but I want to show you how to do that. So let's just continue. All right, now for one of my secrets, you have the waste from your initial turning. What I actually want you to do is go ahead and put it back through the mill one more time. You're gonna be surprised that actually there's still a lot of pulp and moisture that's left in your initial milling that you'll be able to really maximize just by putting it through once more. You can probably see that just by doing a second milling with the leftovers, I have about half the amount. So really, like I said, you could probably even put it through a third time and extract even more, but my bowl is filling up, so I want to go ahead and get you on to the next step. So once you have your applesauce mixed up, it might be a little bit separated between the actual pulp of the apples and the juice. Just go ahead and stir that up so it's all mixed in well, and it will just look like a regular applesauce. And then get your jars, and we're gonna go ahead and all we need to do right now is just ladle your applesauce in. You want to leave about 1 inch headspace on your jar, so that's probably good right there. Let me see if you can see that. Against the color difference, maybe that, there's a good inch of space that's left at the top, just because it's going to, expand. So just go ahead and we'll get these all filled up. We have the jars that we are going to do a hot water bath with, and we need to go ahead and put the lids and rings on that we have already sanitized. We're gonna go ahead and get our lids on. Now, when we place the rings on, you want to just get them onto a fingertip tightness. You don't want to make them too tight because, the pressure changes and everything can make jars explode if it doesn't have enough give. So, like I said, if you can tighten it as tight as you can tighten it basically with your pointer and thumb, that's exactly where it should be. We'll go ahead and take our jars. I like to have this little jar grabber holder thing and take them over to the hot water bath.
All right, so here we have the water that's just beginning to warm up. Make sure it's not too hot, because if it is too hot, then the jars will break when you put them in and you'll have applesauce mess, and it's really just a disaster. So make sure it's not too hot. Go ahead, set these in, and we're going to need to make sure during the whole process as well that we have at least 1 inch of water covering the lids at all times. So during the whole process, make sure if you need to add water, you're doing that. All right, now you can see the jars bubbling a little bit. That's okay. That's just, since the water is a little bit warm, they are basically pressurizing. So that's not a problem. All right, let's turn the heat up and go ahead and wait for a boil.
All right, so you can see here now that we definitely have a rolling boil going. So we will go ahead and let these go or can for 20 minutes. All All right, so as we're waiting for everything to get done canning, I have this Blue Ball canning book, and it's just really great for different ideas and flavor combinations, and I like to keep it on hand. So go ahead and check it out. I have taken these out of the hot water bath, and they're just gonna sit here and cool. Now, there is one last thing we have to do to make sure that they are sealed properly, and that's for us to wait. And like I said, once they start cooling, you should start hearing some pops, and that's how you know that your jars are sealed properly. Once all the jars are completely cooled, you're going to go ahead and push on the tops, and they shouldn't move at all. They should be completely vacuum sealed. However, if you have one that kind of has like a popping or movable space, you know that that jar was not sealed properly. And so that is not one that is safe for storage. You know, sometimes we end up with just a jar or two, and it can be because of maybe the lid or the ring. You know, something just happened during the canning process and that jar didn't seal correctly. It's totally safe to eat right now. So typically what we do is we will put away all the jars that, you know, sealed properly, and we will eat the one jar, you know, first right now that did not seal properly. That is the whole canning apple process. Right, now, I'm assuming that most of you have already snuck a taste in during the process, but I am gonna go ahead and try what we've made. It is so good. I hope you guys enjoyed this video today. I'm gonna go ahead and link everything that I used today below for those who are interested. You know, really these items have saved me so much money and time in the canning process. Let me know below in the comments which were some new things that you guys learned today. Thanks guys, we'll see you next time.